Oh, look who finally decided to show up. You know you've been gone for multiple... It's fine. I've been very busy. This isn't a theory channel, but I talk about whatever I want, and I seem to have stumbled across something big. Have you guys ever heard of a show called Total Drama? It was a very formative show for my youth, and I'm still obsessed with it to this day. No matter what the schedule called for within each year, it always aired around the summer in America, and I was like, hey, it's the summer in America now. Everything I do is perfect timing. If you haven't seen the show, then your homework for today is to go watch the whole thing. It only took me multiple days because a lot of this isn't gonna make sense unless you've seen it. But this isn't gonna be another long look into my childhood and why Total Drama was important for my youth and just important to me in general. I'll save that for another day. So I was perusing Total Drama theories on the internet because even when I'm not currently watching the show, I need to be thinking about it. And I stumbled across this one theory that really stood out because most of the other theories are, oh, what if this character was in a coma? What if this character is a predator? This one initially didn't seem that different. When you're making fan theories, the easiest thing to do is your theory is, what if thing we are told and believe, what if the opposite? So when I came across the Izzy isn't crazy theory, I assumed it would be the same thing. Got it. Izzy is only pretending to be crazy. She's actually a master strategist and she wants to win. I get the point. So then I moved on and didn't think about it, and then I came upon my yearly Total Drama rewatch and I noticed some things. The series legitimately makes more sense if you watch it with the idea that Izzy isn't crazy in mind. And I'm gonna explain how. Nearly everything Izzy does in the show is to further her goal of winning the competition, so upon the rewatch, I marked down every single thing she said and did. But we don't actually start with the first episode, we start with the audition tapes. At the end of every episode when they aired, we got a little post-credit scene of the character that got voted off that episode, their original audition tape to get on the show. And canonically, these audition tapes are the tapes the teens sent in to be cast on the show, and presumably the ones that got them cast on the show. Gwen and Owen don't have tapes because there was never an episode where they got voted off, so that's why they don't have them. And speaking of voted off, those two characters don't get tapes, but there's only one character who gets multiple tapes. Take a wild guess who it is. Because Izzy leaves early and comes back, and yes, that will be important later. So Izzy gets two ending stingers. One where she goes through all of her superficial talents as fast as she possibly can. She clearly already has a strategy for the show, even though in canon, the show has not existed before this point. It's the first season. But we know that she does know about Chris, and she knows what he likes. So the thing she ends the tape with is, I won't be boring.
Let me be on Total Drama Island. Boring be never will it.
In her second audition tape, she's like a completely different person. Her cadence is different, she's wearing different clothes, she shows a different talent. We find out in season 2, later down the line, that she's actually a very good actress. And what is acting if not advanced lying? I mean, I'm lying to you right now. This is basically empty. Possibly she thought that they probably would have skipped over the first tape, and putting in 2 tapes statistically boosts her chances of getting cast on the show. Regardless of which tape got her on the show, she's on the show. We know immediately that her original plan worked, and she's already thinking way more than any other contestant on the show. Episode 1 is actually where another very common fan theory comes into play, but I don't buy it at all. The episode consists of mostly, and by mostly I mean 90% of it, characters coming in on a boat, getting a little introduction, being pushed to the side, and then the next character coming in on the boat, and so on and so forth. We get a lot of Gwen development in this episode as she's kind of the main character, and we get some little interjections from other characters, but for right now, I'm only gonna focus on Izzy. As she appears, she excitedly runs towards the end of the dock, and then jumps, biffs it, and bangs her head on the edge of the dock. The common fan theory is that she was completely normal up until that point, and then became crazy when she bumped her head. But we know by the audition tapes that we just watched that that is not true. Things are heating up in the Total Drama fandom. No. This was calculated. Now she has everyone's attention, and she immediately starts with a rapid fire question. We have to believe that she picked up the crazy persona not only to get cast on the show, but to also make it far in the show. It's a good way of making sure no one ever knows your intentions while also allowing them to fear you. But asking all these questions accomplishes another important thing. She's extending an olive branch. Power in numbers is the name of the game, and if anyone responds to any of these questions passionately, she knows she can latch onto that person and use them for future use.
This is summer camp? That is so cool. Do you have papier-mâché here? Are we having lunch soon?
That is a good call!
Oh, Poor Owen. I've watched the show a bunch of times and I remember a lot of it. So when I was originally making the outline for this theory, I was under the impression that she had no interest in Owen until she came back the second time, but that's not true. My idea was she was watching the show along with everyone else on the luxury island, so she would have noticed that he's the most popular character and also most likable, and it would have been good to associate with him. Because in season 3, when Blanley comes in the show, remember Blanley? She says outwardly that being paired with Owen will boost her chances and likability.
Well, I could do worse. Marrying the audience favorite could be a positive boost for my image.
I'm the audience favorite?
So my original theory was Izzy saw how popular he was getting and also likable and is like, I'm gonna use this as a big shield. People are gonna like me. I'm gonna latch onto this guy. But it turns out she latches onto him much sooner, aka first episode, so different. But this actually makes more sense. She likely latched onto him because of how forgiving he is and weak-willed mentally. As long as she copies his actions exactly, she will remain out of the line of fire. Once everyone's introduced, then we get to the teams. Anyone who's watched Total Drama or has eyes can see that the Gophers are way more stacked as a team than the Bass. And I imagine Izzy noticed that too. When it cuts to every member getting picked for the team, they're excited or they have something to say, except for Izzy. It's completely emotionless. She's clearly upset that she's on the inferior team, but she can't let them know what she knows. And when the team is all together, she is absent. She's legitimately not there. She's off somewhere. Planning. I don't want to make a lot of leaps in this theory, at least not legitimately. There's some wacky stuff later, but it's not out of the realm of possibility to assume that in between the challenges she got in Katie's ear. Episode 2 is when the plan comes to fruition. It's time to pounce.
I'm not jumping without Katie. We have to be on the same team, Chris. Please. Please. Can we? Can we? I'll switch places with her.
No hesitation. Why are we, the viewer, expected to believe this? We haven't seen anything overt so far to show that she doesn't want to be on the Killer Bass, unless you know. She just shrugs and smiles, putting out the idea that she did this on a whim and it wasn't premeditated at all, I promise. And obviously, Izzy is right. The Bass not only lose this challenge, they get demolished. Partially because of Katie and Sadie now being together.
I've got to take a whiz.
Hurry up, we're already behind.
Oh, I have to go too. You do? Oh my gosh, me too.
All better?
Yep.
You guys are way behind the other team. Like, way behind.
Would Sadie had peed if Katie was not there to suggest it? Would the Bass have been slowed down if Izzy didn't switch teams? So in one genius move, Izzy not only put herself on the better team, but immediately tanked the winning potential of the Killer Bass. And then immediately she jumps off a cliff screaming, belly flopping, pushing the crazy narrative after she just made a very intelligent move. This happens a lot. First episode I said I was going to focus solely on Izzy, but for the Izzy plot, there's a couple more people we need to watch out for. Assuming Izzy notices everything, which what we've seen so far, it's fair to assume that, she needs to be the best player. And by doing so, she needs to figure out who are the biggest threats. She would have noticed the strongest on her team, whether it's to get rid of them or to team with them. She likely would have noticed Lashana's strength, Heather clearly building up an army, Justin's superhuman ability to trance anyone, and Owen being Owen. Jumping ahead in the episode, we see that the Gophers are forced to open the crates with their teeth, and the only person we see successfully do it is Izzy. Also, everyone else is trying to bite onto the edges, but she's the only one to think of using tools. I don't know if that's intelligent. I mean, it's more intelligent than like a caveman. And she is the first to get her crate open because of this. However, this was a very intelligent move, and you can't be viewed as intelligent because when takes notice, the facade starts to slip a little bit, so you gotta immediately go back with the crazy.
Ow! Ow! Roper on my tongue.
Or acting dumb. When we cut back to them, all the crates are already open. We don't see anyone else successfully open a crate. You could assume that Izzy opened all the crates, but that might be a little too showy. Just important to note that she is the only one we ever see open a crate. I'm solely supposed to be focusing on Izzy, but I don't know when I'm gonna do another Total Drama related thing where I go through episode by episode. Courtney definitely would have been voted off this episode if Ezekiel didn't, like, get possessed. He's like, I need to say something sexist immediately. Episode 3 doesn't have a lot of Izzy activity, but it does show the strength of the other Gophers. She tanked the whole last challenge pretty single-handedly, so in this one, she falls asleep early, but not first, so not a big threat, but also not costing them the challenge. What we do see in this episode is we see Heather scheming to get Eva eliminated, and Justin trying to cheat to win the challenge. Justin doesn't have a lot of lines in the first season. I don't think we hear him talk after this point at all, and he doesn't become an official villain until season 2. That being said, he is definitely nefarious from the start. It's not like he became a villain all of a sudden. I just thought that's worth noting. Episode 4 also doesn't have a lot of Izzy, but similar to the previous episode, she loses in a very inconspicuous way, or trying to look inconspicuous. She doesn't want to show her full power yet. I'm only using 5% of my power. I didn't really notice how, I don't like to use the word cheap, but cheap the show looks at some points. When Duncan takes out all the Gophers, we see a little PowerPoint still frame of them trying to avoid the ball, except for Izzy. Her picture is her bracing for impact and clearly not trying to run at all. And we see how super athletic she is later in the series, and she didn't just gain that all of a sudden, meaning she intentionally got eliminated. Like I said, with the cheap thing, you notice a lot of stuff about the show if you watch it as often as I do, especially if you're going like step by step and writing everything down. When the audience is cheering, I guess Izzy's cheer wasn't long enough, so they loop it, and normally this wouldn't be an issue, but it's got it's one noise. Or maybe they gave the cheer to Sadie by accident? Once you hear it, it'll drive you crazy. It made me pretty upset. You're welcome.
Lindsay.
What, are you kidding me?
Wait, so this is Lindsay's voice now? This isn't important to the conspiracy. I just thought I should bring it up because I won't be able to ever not hear it now. Too many words for that sentence. Episode 5 is the one infamous for having plot armor. Everyone claims that Heather realistically would have been voted off this episode if the plot wasn't protecting her. She read out Gwen's diary on live television, and everyone is very rightly pissed at her for it. But I have a different theory. First off, I mean, she probably assumed they were gonna win anyway, and they were winning in a landslide. She read the diary before Harold came in to save the day, which nobody saw coming. But if we add the Izzy theory to the equation, I mentioned Lashana before, but she likely noticed 3 main things happening on her team that are very important. Heather building up an alliance, Owen being very suggestible, and Justin being a problem. Look how she acts around Justin in the Total Drama Island special. That's its name.
Whatever you guys do, don't look him in the eyes. He has powers.
Give me the case.
Back off, really hot guy.
She clearly sees something in him that others haven't yet, but they are going to very soon. The Killer Bass is a lot worse as a team, but they're a lot closer as friends, whereas the Gophers have like 3 different cliques. And at the beginning of the episode, we see Izzy sitting and talking and hanging out with Heather's alliance, just like around. And when she comes back later in the season, she's conspiring with Lindsay and Heather and is noted as being in the alliance, and it's never acknowledged. Obviously they acknowledge she's in the alliance, but it's never mentioned why she joined or even that she joined. Just from the episode forward that she comes back, she's just with them. Like, I don't know if it was a mistake or a scene cut for time or it was just boring, but no one ever talks about her being in the alliance, even though she is in the show. Like I said, it makes more sense watching it this way. Not only does the Izzy theory fix some plot armor, but also some plot holes. The series legitimately makes more sense if you watch it and believe Izzy is an evil mastermind. There's a lot of stuff you notice upon rewatches. Like, I've heard Owen burp the ABC so many times, and because it's the ABCs, I'm like, okay, I know how it ends, even though I'm not really listening to it and understanding it. But he says Zed, which makes sense because it's a Canadian show, but I just always assumed he said Z weird. I didn't know Zed existed as a kid.
Zed? Who the heck is Zed?
Whatever, we're wasting precious Izzy time. In this episode, Izzy aligns herself with Heather and sinks her fangs into Owen.
The dance of the rattlesnake.
She attempts to hypnotize him like Justin is able to do. If she is a mastermind and potential toxic person, she knows the best way to get Owen on her side is to get rid of all of his friends. I thought Owen and Noah's friendship was a thing that was exclusive to season 3, but the first couple episodes that Noah's in, they actually interact a lot. So of course, because Izzy pulls all the strings, Noah is the first to get eliminated on their team. The second, Justin. Huh. Interesting. Because Justin could hypnotize Owen, and Owen clearly has a crush on him. Like, I know it's played for a joke, but that is in canon what is happening. So that's another threat. The plot armor people are referring to is that Justin gets eliminated this episode, and it should have been Heather. Heather explains this as,
all I needed was 4 votes against Justin. Lindsay and Beth were easy. Izzy's just crazy, and Owen, piece of cake.
Piece of cake.
Beth and Lindsay voting with her makes sense at this point, and she believes that she convinced Izzy just because she's crazy, but we know Izzy's intentions. The issue people have with this is how possibly Heather could convince Owen to vote off Justin. It's explained away with a joke about Owen liking food, but what if it was Izzy? Of all the people on the team, why would she ask Izzy and then Owen? Unless Heather, being one of the most perceptive people on the show, maybe below Izzy, has noticed that Izzy has control over Owen. Even if she still believes she's crazy, she notices that she has control over him. And to the people who think this is still plot armor, that would still only be 5v5 votes. But Cody definitely voted for Trent. Episode 6 is one of the hardest to explain, but I thought of the conclusion first, and now I'm gonna bend the evidence to support my argument. I refuse to change my mind. Remember, we're not only assuming she's a genius, we're assuming she's an evil genius. Not that she's like a murderer, but she will do any underhanded tactics to get what she wants. Normally when the contestants are lying or pretending to be something they're not, we see them being honest in the confessional. And this episode is the first time we see Izzy in the confessional having one of these talking head segments. It only happens like 3 or 4 times. The rest of this episode is Izzy laughing off all of Owen's terrible jokes, saying the mark on his ass is awesome, and just talking about how cool he is as a person. So for this, there are 2 potential theories. Maybe 3. Theory the first, Izzy is so confident in her ability now and is getting cocky, so decides to go out of her way to torment everyone on the team for her own enjoyment, and we see her confessional.
Okay, that was so funny. Like, oh, it's a bear. Oh no. And like, we're all gonna die now. Help. And I'm like, I'm gonna beat you. Like, I could actually do that. There's no way, okay?
Theory 2, Izzy heard Owen's bear story that he told to everyone on the team and decided to throw him under the bus. Owen claims he fought a bear, so Izzy becomes a bear to expose him as a fraud. The second bear was just a fortunate coincidence. Heather's basically the team captain, and at the end of the episode, Heather blames Izzy and Owen, but mostly Owen, and she only pushes him.
This is all your fault.
All your fault. And then Izzy just laughs. It doesn't bother her. She got away. But for the most part, she does remain in character in the confessional. It's fair to assume that she does the crazy mask not only for the show, but also just in her day-to-day life. Theory the third, I'm kind of more partial to this one. Izzy noticed Lashauna's specific fear of bears and decided to torment only her.
Did he say there are bears up in here?
There's a handful of episodes later down the line where Izzy decides to target only Lashana, and it's never explained why. Izzy's trying to get rid of all the threats, and if she views Lashana as very strong and a tough competitor, the easiest way to break her would be mentally. Theory 3 is the most basic, and it kind of goes under the implication that her plan didn't entirely work, but it's the most believable one, because why would she throw Owen under the bus after immediately getting him on her side? That being said, we know Owen is very forgiving, so she could have easily just padded her own loss while also keeping Owen still on good terms with her. The only reason they don't lose is because Katie and Sadie cost their team to challenge, and in the long run, that was because of Izzy. And they get lost and hide in a cave overnight because of Izzy. It's worth thinking about. They wouldn't have been scared of the bear if Izzy didn't do everything she did in this episode. Maybe she knows way more than I think. Maybe she's omniscient. This is the episode where Duncan tells the rest of the Best the man-door hand-hook car door story, and in a crazy piece of foreshadowing, it's revealed later in this season that there is in fact a man with a hook on the loose. Episode 7 is way more basic. Izzy keeps copying Owen to seem more likable and unthreatening.
Flying, man, that's some crazy stuff.
I would never go up in a plane. Never.
Izzy says her greatest fear is flying, which we know is a lie from later in the series, but she says it immediately after Owen says that's his fear, so she's just like, oh, yep, I agree, What are the odds they are this compatible that they have the exact same fear? Owen keeps his fear of planes in World Tour, Izzy does not. She's scared when he's scared, she screams when he screams, she kisses the ground right after he does, you get the point. Also, Courtney costs her team again, but Tyler gets voted off because he's nowhere near as cute as Courtney. That's not relevant, I just need to dump this info somewhere. Episode 8 is where Izzy gets eliminated for the first time. Notice I said for the first time and put quotation marks over eliminated. I guess I put it over the whole. I'm really bad at these because she isn't technically eliminated. She was going to be before the RCMP comes in and attempts to arrest her. The RCMP stands for Royal Canadian Mounted Police. whatever that means. My point being, this would have been a hard episode to explain had this not happened. Izzy cost her team a lot in this episode, so if we are to believe that she's smart, it is my belief that she fully intended to be caught and found out this episode and run off into the woods. It's the first time she mentioned being on the run for her past crimes.
And then these bushmen taught us how to properly catch and cook crocodile, as well as koala.
Isn't killing a koala bear illegal?
Oh, I don't know, probably, yeah.
She also lists off her crimes. It's on live TV.
Handmade fire starter I made from some tree sap and sand. Stand back, guys.
I don't know much about Canadian law, but that sounds just like an act of terror. No one's plans work out 100% of the time. I said she was omniscient as a joke, but she is just like a smart person.
Oh, you know, I spent a summer training with the reserves. Yeah, I got into some trouble there and like blew up the kitchen by accident, which is why the RCMP is like still all over my butt. I am so totally AWOL.
She likely made the bomb in the woods to get the cops' attention and just accidentally won the first part of the challenge. We see Courtney sue her way back onto the show in season 2, and Izzy's reason for coming back is her not technically getting voted off. Even if Chris didn't want her back on the show, she could probably sue her way back. It seems pretty easy as far as this show's considered. She fully intended to lose this challenge outright, so when they got the lead, she needed to improvise.
What are we gonna do without paddles? You guys could get someone to swim behind the boats and push them. I did that once for this huge, like, 60-foot yacht. The whole crew had to flutter kick for like 8 days to get to shore, and like 4 of us got eaten by sharks. I didn't, not me. But it was really insane. Okay, later. Ah!
On top of this, she talks a lot of shit this episode.
Just follow my technique. I'm 1/87th Cherokee, you know?
As I stand upon my native Cherokee heritage, I will hunt you down, you damn dirty trolls.
Like, up until this point, she tried solely to just be likable, but it doesn't matter if her team wants to vote her off. She gets away. She not only cost her team, but she gets to skip most of the game because of this. Some would argue getting to the merger is a lot harder than winning, and she gets to skip all the way to the final 12. Also, this is the first episode we see Owen willingly hanging out with Heather. Like, yeah, he sees the good in people, but he's not stupid. He saw her read Gwen's diary. It just so happens that after Izzy convinced Owen to vote with Heather, he now views her as a friend. So I'm sure that Izzy has faith that her 2 strongest allies will make it past the merge to greet her. She's right. This episode is also another example of her teaming up with Lashana solely to torment her.
You cost us the game! You are dead!
Right. Okay, you are so lucky that my license to kill is currently expired.
She just threatened to kill her, I think. This will also come back later. Just let it be known that Izzy's plan works. Regardless of if we know her intentions or not, if she wanted to come back in the game later, she does. She won. It worked. I did rewatch the whole show for this, but Izzy doesn't appear again until way later, so we can now skip ahead. I guess we don't need to talk about this episode anymore. What do they think hooking up means?
So much for hooking up with Trent.
Like, they can't mean what that actually means. Right? Is Trent getting a hit? This show's crazy. Before I skip ahead, does anything worthwhile happen the next episode?
If you take it back, you can rejoin our alliance. Take back what? The N-word.
Episode 15 is the first episode where Izzy's true plan starts to play out. After the merger of the final 10, they bring back 2 contestants from the past, Eva and Izzy. When they bring back Eva, they say they do it because she was popular, which we know is untrue, so they just brought her back to cause conflict. For 1 episode. While Eva returns on a boat, Izzy swings in from the forest with everyone dreading her arrival. She claims to have been living in the woods this whole time on the run from the RCMP. But we know that's not true because at the end of this episode, Eva yells out,
I'm not done with you! Oh! And Izzy lied! She wasn't in the woods! She was—
Wow, she has issues, huh? Party at Lashana's new crib!
We see the island in which all the losers hang out in a later episode. This is where Eva saw Izzy. This is where Izzy was.
It's good to be back at camp, even though I never actually left the island. I've been living in the woods all this time.
But I thought the RCMP hunted you down.
They tried, but being a wilderness survivor, I was swift-footed and avoided capture. Once I was safe among my animal brethren, it was just me against the harsh elements.
You call this harsh? It's been warm and sunny all week.
Not where I was.
Not where I was. It's under a bunch of lies, but it's technically true. Izzy's plan is to skip most of the game by running away from a planted RCMP instead of actually getting eliminated. Chris gives a whole diatribe about Eva coming back and then kind of nonchalantly throws Izzy in. Like, this wasn't his plan. She outsmarted him. She may be the only contestant who actually read the first contract. She needs to keep her crazy illusion up so the other contestants don't expect anything. As far as they know, she was off in the woods surviving off of raw fish. Crazy. In the previous episode, the girls and the guys are separated. The girls don't bond as well as the guys do, so they put a giant line of tape down the middle of the cabin. Bridget sides with Gwen and Lashana and leaves Heather and her sidekick on the other side. When Eva enters the girls' room, she acknowledges the tape, but Izzy doesn't. When the scene starts, it fades in. Izzy is already on Heather and Lindsay's side. Literal side, which we will see a bunch more of in a little bit. It's just important to note that she's already chosen sides and it isn't acknowledged at all. Maybe we aren't supposed to know it. The rest of what Izzy does in this episode is more crazy coding, but we do get to see how low of a pain tolerance she has. We see more of her fighting skills later in the season, but for right now, we know she's a very gifted acrobat and a very strong woman. She's been trained, potentially for something even more taxing than the show, and you could still argue her loss here is strategical. She takes herself out of this challenge in what seems to just be her being weird again.
Who's your next victim?
Oh, me! With the poison ivy spa treatment!
Is it just me? Or is that girl some kind of crazy?
Lashana will regret those words. You don't need immunity to stay in the game. You just need to fly under the radar. And she knows there are at least 2 people more hated than her. And that's why Eva gets voted off this episode. We see a bunch of the contestants' confessionals. We all see who they voted for. You know who we don't see? Izzy. She is still at this point, basically at the end of the series, only had 1 confessional so far. Episode 16 has some Lindsay and Izzy content. Not like shipping, but like, you know what I mean. It seems like Lindsay always gets the worst of Izzy. She was grossed out by her even before she left, and she was one of the people with genuine terror on her face when she was coming back. Izzy helps Lindsay find her key, but then doesn't help her after she's attacked by bees. Like she did it intentionally, because Lindsay doesn't actually get her key.
Izzy tried to help. Bee stinging, terror, lost keys.
This is another big Heather, Gwen, Trent, that whole thing episode. It is canonically shown, I keep saying that, but it is canon, that Izzy helped Heather kiss Gwen's crush. She knowingly did that.
Okay, listen up. We've got to break up Trent and Gwen. Here's the plan.
Even if we're taking the entire show at surface level, she's crazy, but even she would know that that is very, very bad. You know, if you believe she isn't an evil genius.
And feisty too!
There is no time for that now. We need to have an alliance meeting.
And she's definitely in this alliance. Are we all on the same page with that now? They just said it. And yet, in the eyes of the fans, she gets away with it. At least Lindsay doesn't know any better, and Beth willingly leaves. Everyone's like, oh, Izzy's so kooky. She's fucked up. This is notoriously one of the most evil things Heather does this season, and Izzy was there. She helped her do it. And then when she comes back to greet her friends...
Hey, guys! Woo! What stinks?
Izzy, you've got a snake on your head.
I know, but don't worry, he's friendly.
Remember I mentioned Heather's plot armor from before?
Oh, and look, an invincibility pass. Lucky me.
Well, the only reason Trent gets voted off this episode and Heather doesn't, because in a stroke of luck, she finds invincibility. Like, I could excuse the Justin thing, but this is straight up just dumb luck. Making sure this cheating happens is the most strategic move for Izzy, because even if Trent doesn't get booted, Heather still falls. It's obviously better for her to keep Heather around as a hate buffer, but either going will do. She's in the alliance, but she spends way more time manipulating Lindsay than helping Heather. Maybe she noticed how suggestible Lindsay is, like Owen before her, and thought it would be a better idea to keep her around as a dumb meat shield and get rid of Heather. Episode 17. Izzy hunts Chef in this episode, and they seem pretty well matched. Almost like they've met each other before. Interesting. Also, Izzy keeps Lashana's hiding place a secret, despite what we're meant to believe is that she's in Heather's alliance and had no reason to help her win. When it comes to Izzy, can't trust anyone. She has no allegiance. No allegiance, except...
I say we lose him. Lindsay?
Owen, yeah.
But Owen is like the nicest guy on the island, and he plays a mean game of canasta. Have you guys ever played that?
The people she finds the easiest to manipulate.
Hey, why don't you vote with us, Izzy? We'll be like BFFs.
Best female friends.
Okay.
You know she'll just dump you after the vote.
It's true. She will. Ow!
Ow!
Oh, poor Izzy. If only she knew that Heather couldn't be trusted. Of course she knows. She's known the whole time. Bridget gets voted off due to the girls' split vote. Episode 18 is bullshit. It also aired alongside Thumb Wars, the Star Wars Thumb parody. Someone should talk about that. The contestants are challenged to each build their own custom bikes, but the rules are absurd. Everyone's bikes are switched around, so to get to the final part of the challenge, your bike needs to cross the finish line, which means even if you win the race, you might not make it to the end. You only make it if your bike crosses, and you won't ever have your bike, so why even race? And the final round is... just listen to this.
Won! We did it! We're safe!
That's not exactly true. Heather is safe because her bike crossed the line first, but since Duncan and Owen wiped out and didn't complete the race, they technically didn't cross the line at all, which makes you the last one to cross the line, which means it's Dock of Shame time, baby.
So Lindsay gets immediately eliminated despite coming in second place. The rules are so dumb. They don't make any sense. Why even try? You would be better off in this challenge by not competing. Wait a minute.
Hey, where's Izzy and Lashana? Oh well, their loss. Because this is where it gets good.
In the first half of this episode, Izzy kidnaps Lashana and bikes all around the island, skipping the challenge and not competing at all. If you can't race, then you can't get eliminated, but you can't just not do the challenge, so you need to go missing. And what's the best alibi for going missing? A crazy woman. It has now been 2 episodes in a row where Izzy has helped Lashana stay in the game. She couldn't possibly know Lindsay was going to be the one that was going to get eliminated, but at least now she has a contingency plan. Heather has outgrown her usefulness. She still has Owen under her thumb, but he's starting to also outgrow his usefulness. Having a Lashana as an ally may be a good asset. Those 3 people, along with Justin and Noah, are the people she noticed from the very start, and she made a very conscious effort to be on their team. Speaking of Owen being under her finger, episode 19, The Hook Guy. From before. All the contestants watch a horror movie together and then have to live one as Chef dressed up like a murderer chases them all around the island. The scary movie aficionados Gwen and Duncan know the rules because they've seen so many horror movies. So obviously no other contestant would know more about avoiding Chef for the challenge.
Never go in the woods. Rule number 3, if you do go in the woods, never, ever, ever make out in the woods, or you will die in the woods.
You want to make out?
Yes!
No one knows more about scary movies than Duncan and Gwen. Except, Izzy loves scary movies.
Izzy loves scary movies!
Izzy loves scary movies. So she knows this is a bad idea, and yet she brought Owen into the woods. And also, it's Chef. She's bested and escaped Chef before. She could easily do it again. Unless, of course, she purposefully lost the challenge for her and Owen. But she wouldn't do that. Would she? Unless, of course, she assumed Owen was no longer loyal.
Owen's too young to die. Here, take Izzy.
It makes way more sense than her being oblivious to horror movies, considering she loves them.
But I have got a date with exfoliation.
And the bossy mean chick steals her fate.
Taking out both Heather and Owen. DJ gets eliminated because I guess the writers wanted him gone. The first season has a lot of this. Episode 20. A mistake. Izzy has been a total drama machine so far. Every choice she's made has been systematic to get her to the final 7. And in doing this, she has been utterly emotionless. Everything is for reason. But sometimes, emotion trumps reason.
Hours for a wild and crazy gal?
Oh, yeah? As in the kind you abandon and leave for dead in the hands of a chainsaw-wielding psycho killer with a hook?
This is the first actual time we've seen her mad. Even when she was fighting with Chef, she seemed exhilarated. Also,
Can't believe I'm in the final 7. Can you imagine me winning? Oh, that would be awesome. Woohoo! Everyone else here totally deserves it more than I do, though. Except Heather. She's really mean.
Owen claims to fear Heather, whereas before we saw him being a friend with her. This is possibly at Izzy's request. Izzy had her whole plan laid out in front of her. She successfully played Heather, Lindsay, Lashana, Trent, Justin, Katie, Sadie, and Owen. But she missed something. Izzy had directed all of her attention towards the Screaming Gophers and the threats and friends on that team that she missed the biggest threat on the Bass. Behind everyone's back, Duncan decides to make a momentary alliance with Heather, which is, in this episode, the reason Izzy gets the boot. Izzy pretends to be a bad shot throughout the whole episode, resulting in her being able to shoot Heather with a tranquilizer, thus eliminating the biggest threat in the challenge. Unfortunately for her, She didn't see Duncan coming. How did this happen? She's smarter than this.
Oh my gosh, I should totally win. Okay, you know that time I dressed up as a bear and like scared everyone and I was like, "Rawr!" And they were like, "Ah, save me!" Well, if someone else dressed up as a bear and it wasn't me, I totally wouldn't have been scared. I would have known, which makes me smarter than they are. Oh, did I mention I have an IQ of 188? Because I do!
Wait. What?
Yeah, genius runs in my family and psychotherapy. Uh-huh.
I don't know how much of this I should believe. We can only go off of stuff that is strictly canon in the show, and we know that each season Izzy makes it pretty far, but we also know she's never won. Unfortunately for this theory, Izzy has to lose multiple times. No one wins forever.
Good night, everybody! Thanks for coming out!
Episode 22 has nothing to do with their strategy, but it's still interesting. We see where all the losers have been hanging out after getting eliminated, confirming the location of where Izzy was hiding the whole time. And it's apparently very close to the island.
Can you believe this place is right around the corner from this lame-o campground?
Most of this episode consists of Izzy tormenting Noah, Katie, and Sadie, the first 3 people she preyed on island. She may not drop her persona, but she can still seek revenge. She also flashes her ass. I don't know why. What kind of strategy could this be?
I just hope she's still not ticked at me about the Heather thing.
I would be. If she were me and you were still you, you'd be seriously maimed.
That's a little harsh.
You kissed her mortal enemy.
It wasn't my fault. I was tricked.
Yeah, right. That's what they all say. My lips did what they wanted. My lips have a mind of their own. Blah, 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 blah. Fish cakes, blah, blah, blah. I'm a liar. Blah, blah, blah.
This is even more fucked up considering she was there. She made it happen. What reason does Izzy have to hold this against Trent despite being evil?
Well, I think Heather is a total psycho.
Izzy was with her every step of the way. She keeps her crazy guys up for most of the episode. Most of the episode.
No one say Lashana!
This episode is kind of a fun one-off, but it completely tanks the quality at the end where they vote off Lashana for no reason. Like, I know the in-canon reason is just like a funny joke where all the contestants all really like Lashana, but they all keep accidentally saying her name and getting her eliminated. But, like, from a writing standpoint, you could have her get eliminated any other way. People really think Island is the best season? Whatever, my point is we see Izzy get legitimately frustrated at this occurring. She's not being crazy or weird, like everyone else is doing like a dumb joke, but yet she's being serious. She's trying to stop this. Now that Izzy is out of the running, she still kind of wants the money, so the smartest option would be to pick a contestant she was close with to possibly get some money out of. Heather and Duncan are both huge threats to her, as seen before. Gwen never liked her, and every chance she got sided against her. Maybe she could win Owen back and control him. Maybe she could side with Lashana more and convince her they're friends. Regardless of which of those two she picks, it'd be easier to have 2 options. She did get rid of all of those close to Owen.
I think Owen should win.
He's a ticking time bomb of noxious fumes.
This is heartbreaking to hear. But despite her best efforts, Lashana is still voted off and we don't see either of them until... I know so far I've been shitting on the first season a lot, but episode 23 is one of my favorite episodes of like the entire show, but we don't get to talk about it because it has nothing related to Izzy. Check this out.
Yeah, Owen. I'm not so sure about this.
I love this show. Episode 26 is the finale of season 1's competition, wherein Izzy pushes Owen all the way to the end to ensure he wins this money.
Yay, Owen! Go, Owen! Run!
Unfortunately for her, after she had already planned to help Owen, Owen reveals he's not going to share the money with anyone. He's planning to spend it all on a giant party. And later he loses the rest of his money, so... But for now... At least she gets a party. Better than what Gwen wants to use her winnings for.
Maybe if I can survive here, the rest of high school won't be so bad.
Oh, sorry.
And she wants everyone to know that Owen is the one they should all side with. I mean, she helps push him up the flagpole. Heather helped too, but at some point, she just started getting Izzy's way.
Stop touching my hair, crazy girl.
In the end, Gwen seems to be coming out on top. But Izzy is still the crafty genius she has been the entire game up until this point.
Wait, I have a plan. Has anyone seen a really big electric fan here?
Sure, got one in my trailer.
You do?
Do you think I get this windblown look naturally?
Get it, and meet me back here.
Izzy's plan to use a fan and push brownie smell to motivate Owen to cross the finish line seems ridiculous, but it works. Like, a decent amount of this theory is like, oh, that's dumb, why would that ever work? But it doesn't even matter because it always does work. Owen wins Total Drama Island because of Izzy. Like, he would not have crossed the finish line if not for her plan. Of course, in the Canadian ending of the show, Izzy stands in front of the finish line, so Owen does not make it past, and then Gwen wins. There's a lot of conversations in the fandom about which endings are actually canon, because the show does its best to try and make each ending be canon, but later in the show we hear Owen's parents talk about money, and in Gwen's ending she says this:
well, after I pay for my tuition, there might be enough left over for a rockin' party and everyone's invited. Everyone except Heather.
And we see at both parties, both versions of it, Heather's there.
I mean, I did place second last year. I know exactly what I'm doing.
Also, like, as a story goes, it makes way more sense that Owen gambled away his money than them just taking it away from Gwen. Oops, I spoiled it. Owen gambles away his money. Episode 27 is the between point between Total Drama Island and Total Drama Action, where Owen gives up his $100,000 to try and find $1 million hidden somewhere around the island. But for this money, he has to compete with all the past competitors. Before the challenge starts, we see Izzy mirroring Owen, successfully making him fall for her again. The only issue is, it may have gone a little farther than she had hoped.
I think I'm in love with you.
Also, her group consists of her hanging out with Eva, who knew that she lied before, so maybe Eva just respects the strategy. It's not Izzy's fault Eva got booted, even though she's related to it. That's why in the actual challenge, they form a group.
That was funny! You stupid guy!
Owen with the guys and Izzy with the girls. And Noah, take of that what you will. It's pretty impressive how Izzy successfully turned Noah against Owen and got him on her side. She was just fucking with him a couple episodes ago. But don't worry, they'll get back together. I didn't mean Owen and Izzy. I mean Noah and Owen.
Guys, up here! The suitcase must be in a tree! Okay, to find it, we must think like the tree.
She's saying this crazily, but again, she ends up being right. The suitcase is, in fact, in a tree, and she would have found it had Courtney not tried to out-crazy her. She actually has a surprising amount in common with Courtney. From this point forward, Courtney becomes more and more deranged, and she used the game's rules as a loophole to get back into the game, which is what Izzy did. She also seems legitimately mad when Courtney jumps on her vine. We've only seen her genuine emotions a couple of times, but she does get her revenge by stealing the case from Courtney. Izzy's always got a plan, except for one of her weaknesses that returns: Justin. She got rid of him early in the first game because she saw his true potential. Unfortunately, Justin is now realizing his own potential. Izzy used reality show tactics to get on the show in the first place. She knows how these things work. She must know that the show is getting another season. I mean, she saw how popular in canon the show is. We see later when we're like shown the outside world that it's one of the most popular shows. I speculated previously that Izzy is the only character who actually read the initial contract, and we find out later in this episode that they can bring back all the contestants because it's in the fine print, which she would have read. So she knows what's gonna happen, and she's determined to get on the second season, and right now is when her new plan starts.
I'm thinking of changing my name. Yeah, to Kaleidoscope. Isn't that pretty? You can call me E-Scope for short.
This will come into play later, next season. But right now, Izzy's focused on one thing. Shooting Justin, I think. Like, at this point, she doesn't really care about the case because she knows there's going to be more game, but Justin, that is a threat that it's only going to get worse.
That way he won't see us coming! Now remember, the minute you have that pretty boy Justin in your sights, fire at will! And then take the case back!
Revenge is a dish best served. Alright, let's move on.
Quickly hang the lights. Where are the elephants? They're in the trunk. That was a joke.
That smells like an elephant!
Don't look at me!
I need makeup!
The robotic dinosaur is out of control. Why did you turn it on? Well, I have that effect on robots. That was another joke.
I'm gonna start moving now, so I need to get my makeup first!
You both need makeup. Delivery! I got oversized body parts here. We are filming this challenge today, people.
When drama turns to action, there are a million reasons to watch. Total Drama Action.
Season 2, Episode 1. In the return of the series that is Total Drama Action, all the challenges are based on different genres of film. The first challenge is the monster movie, where the contestants must escape a giant animatronic that is chasing and attacking people.
It was an animatronic monster!
And in a lesson she learned from last season, the best way to win is not to play. So she purposefully gets caught first, and in the meantime, she gets to emotionally manipulate Owen.
I just wish she'd notice me and not that dumb monster. How can I compete with it?
And it's supposed to sound like he's paranoid and being unreasonable, but in reality...
'cause I'd find you.
They do this as a funny little Izzy bit, like, oh man, crazy Izzy, she went on a date with a monster. But it's not a real monster. Chef is controlling it. So she went on a date with Chef? Is that where they know each other from?
Monster and I had a romantic date. He doesn't take no for an answer. Mm-hmm. Pretty crazy. I can't even tell you guys.
Also this.
I'm a top!
Yeah. We really need to get to the bottom of what Izzy and Chef's relationship is.
Not again.
Wait. What do you mean, not again? Season 2, episode 2, Izzy puts ketchup on pancakes, and it's the worst thing she's done so far.
In battle, we put ketchup on everything. Covered with the taste of mortar.
Wait a minute, what battle is she talking about, and when did it take place?
What war were you in anyway?
Did I ask you to speak? Because I don't remember asking you to speak.
Whatever. He so wasn't in a war.
Rapid fire weird questions. Did they serve together? Was he a drill sergeant? This theory about Izzy playing the game smart has now turned into a theory about Izzy's mysterious past.
I know, aliens. I've been abducted loads of times. There's a tracking device in my neck, see?
Does it hurt?
Only when I hiccup. Yeah. Ow.
A lot of the time we are subject to unreliable narrator when it comes to Izzy's craziness. We don't have any proof of any of the crazy stories she makes up. We are just told what she tells us. However, we hear the beeping. The tracker she talks about, it is physically there because the cameras can pick it up and we can hear it. So who put this tracking device in her? Could it be real aliens? Of course not. Aliens aren't real. Except in season 3, it's revealed that in this universe, aliens are in fact real because they go to Area 51 and that's where they are. I don't know what any of this means unless my new theory is that Izzy is actually an alien proxy put on this reality show to take over the world slowly. I hope that's not the case. That is ridiculous. That being said, it would explain why Chef has hunted her in the past. He claims to have been in some kind of war, and while he is likely lying, what if his service was covered up? Regardless of what it is or how ridiculous the thing is, these two have had an encounter in the past.
I thought you were dead.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
What?
I once knew a love like that.
I think Chef's backstory may be way more tragic than he lets on. We need to focus more on Izzy's strategy. This is going wildly off course. She pushes the E-scope name hard by flipping Owen. This will come back later. Speaking of Owen, it is now pretty much confirmed that she has successfully turned Owen against Heather.
Now who is with me?
It's hard to say. Does being with you imply some sort of an alliance?
Because we don't like you.
In episode 6, which I didn't really talk about, Owen and Heather are paired together, and they're still kind of nice, and Owen has, like, some hang-ups, and Heather insults Izzy, but he's still forgiving. But right now, it's over.
And Izzy.
E-scope!
Fine. E-scope.
And the trap has been triggered. Now she's got Chris, the host of the show, calling her E-scope as well. Season 2, episode 3 is the episode I've been alluding to this whole time. Izzy gets eliminated this episode. Except she doesn't. E-scope gets eliminated. She's convinced Chris to write that name on the elimination paper, and because of that, she is able to return to the game a second time through another loophole. The last time she did this, she purposefully threw the challenge and made sure it was her fault. This time around, it's a little harder to pin down what she was trying to do. She eggs on her team, mostly Trent, and does lose the challenge for her team, which she probably didn't have to considering she was already picked last in the team draft, but she does seem legitimately invested in her acting ability. Like, she takes it very seriously.
Can we just get the ball rolling on my eventual Best Actress nomination?
She has great pride in it. Everyone's got a weakness. Nobody is devoid of passion, which is expanded upon in the Celebrity Manhunt special. So her purposefully losing the challenge might not exactly be it, because she clearly wanted to be the better actor. The reason they do lose is because Chef showed favoritism to the other team. Oh yeah, this is the season Chef makes an alliance with DJ in an agreement to split the winnings 50-50. And you may think this is an out for the Chef and Izzy relationship, but then it's revealed in the Aftermath show that Chef offered her the alliance first. These two are up to something. Gotta say though, be really weird if Chef had a relationship with a teenager.
I've got an old soul! I'm like 87 years old on the inside because I've been reincarnated like a whole bunch of times.
This theory is getting way too big already. No way reincarnation is a part of it. The opening narration describes Chef as an army chef, which doesn't necessarily mean he was a chef for the army, just that he is those two things. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this, part of the reason Izzy E-scope's plan work is because Chef vouches for her.
Izzy! Time time to go.
I'm not going anywhere. That's not my name.
Girl likes to be called Kaleidoscope.
Can I get a pen over here? It says E-scope now, okay?
She doesn't seem very shocked by this. Just meticulous.
This was just a dress rehearsal, my darlings.
Yeah, this is definitely all part of her master plan. Even if you don't agree with this interpretation, it doesn't matter. It still happened. She still got eliminated and managed to come back to the show because of something she decided to do. The other stuff is just kind of very weird, but we don't really get any more of that moving forward, so let's drop it, I guess. The whole episode is really weird.
We have been working for 8 hours, and you are legally obligated by union rules to give us a meal break.
Oh, yeah? Who here is in the union? Yeah, I thought so.
Wow. How perfectly relevant.
I'll help you down, milady.
Oh! Thank you.
Anything for milady.
Season 2, episode 6 is the first appearance of the Aftermath show. As a kid, I always hated the Aftermath episodes because they weren't part of the actual challenge, but upon the rewatch, it's actually filled with a lot of very fun character moments. Small little fun details like Izzy being the 8th most wanted from the RCMP, her ex-boyfriend having a restraining order against her, and her therapist saying she was psychotic.
I'm psychotic. I think you mean psychic. I'm pretty sure my therapist said psychotic. Okay.
But let me ask you a question. What is psychosis? Remember when this video was about total drama? Psychotic behavior is a result from a detachment from reality. For example, seeing things that aren't there. Like if she claimed on the show that aliens were real and the people watching the show, they're like, oh, that's not true. Even though we, the audience with all this boundless information, know that she is in fact telling the truth. It could also be a diagnosis tied to bipolar disorder. Izzy does tend to rapidly change emotions a lot. Or it could be an elaborate act to survive. She doesn't have to be dumb to be crazy. You could still be smart and crazy. And maybe the detachment just comes from her general lack of care for other people. Despite having multiple mental illnesses, I am not a mental health professional. I do not claim to be. I'm just saying, even if this is true, even if she is psychotic, it doesn't discredit the theory. Why should we believe what Izzy says? If she's lying, then she's lying. We speculated previously that the chip in her neck isn't a lie because the audience can hear it.
I can't lie to you. Wow, it's that painful to remember? No, I just can't lie to you. I was outfitted with a lie deterrent microchip that emits shockwaves at the first hint of dishonesty. That's a really nice top bridge. Ow!
So we now know based on the show that she cannot lie at all, meaning that everything she has said in the show has actually been true up until this point. Except that doesn't make any sense.
I'm not done with you! Oh! And Izzy lied! You mean all that trash you were talking was true?
No, just the RCMP part.
Unless she got the lie chip in between seasons, but she lies in action too. So maybe she's able to make an electric sound on command, or she had it installed recently. But that doesn't make any sense either because the Aftermath show introduces a new segment called Truth or Hammer. The hammer always plays by the same logic as the chip and all lie detectors in cartoons where it just always knows. So we can all assume that if Izzy lied, she would both get shocked and get hit by the hammer.
Look at that poor guy.
Dude thinks he's next.
I would never hurt that intern. Whoa! Nearly got me that time.
Oh, Izzy, your illusion is slipping. She doesn't want anyone to know her plan, including us. But I'm a mentally unwell obsessed fan. I noticed the slip up. She forgot to do the shot. And if you want to argue that that was just a mistake, that's fine, but that kind of discredits the whole point of this theory and this discussion we're having, which is to cover up plot holes and mistakes and plot armor and make the series make as much sense as possible.
My guess is Chef went and made a demon deal with DJ. Yeah, I think Chef threw the acting challenge with Duncan, so DJ's team won and I lost. But hey, what do I know?
A lot, apparently.
Izzy's plan has always been to find loopholes, play people, and feign ignorance. With this lie chip now established to most of the viewing audience, she can now get away with anything because most people believe, oh, she can't lie. Not saying that the Alliance is a lie because we see a video of it.
Don't believe a word Izzy says. The girl's crazy.
At first I thought she was scrambling, but no, look at her. This is all going according to plan. She doesn't seem upset about being eliminated and even uses the opportunity to taunt Jeff. She does come back the exact next episode. But with all this comes a much bigger question. What is so important about this game? That seems like a dumb question because everyone in the show's priority is to win, But why is that? Obviously it's because they want to win $1 million, but how long does that money last for a teenager? Or maybe some contestants want to follow the theme song. They want to be famous. We see a lot of the contestants talking about fame, tabloids, and fans, and in the Celebrity Manhunt special, we see a lot of them use their small dwindling fame on the show to try and have a larger career. But Izzy isn't just a celebrity. She claims to be a professional actress, and we see her become one. Of course she wants to win the money, but becoming a actual celebrity will yield way more. What's $1 million to a movie star? Maybe she picked Total Drama just because it was the easiest way to get to that fame. The only reason I bring this up is because in the Aftermath special, in between crazy rants that seem to not go anywhere, she drops a line about writing a book.
My life is an open book. Well, not yet, but it will be once I write it. And you open the book.
She's already using her Total Drama fame to plug a book. That is the most celebrity shit I've ever seen. And then later in the first Aftermath, when Jeff and Bridget start fighting, she immediately takes over hosting the show. She has now fully proved herself as a reliable asset to the producers. And maybe that's why they ask her for favors later. That may be her side project, but for right now, she's got to keep her eyes on the prize. Season 2, Episode 7, Izzy returns and claims to be helping the gaffers, but then they lose the challenge because of her, and she immediately flocks to the other team, the winning team, her team. She also claims again that she never left and she's just been living amongst the prairie dogs, which we also know is not true because she was just on the Aftermath show, again proving that she can in fact lie. The point of this video is not really to explain the plot of the show, just like the theory itself, so I rushed through that explanation as fast as I could because honestly the show does a way better job of explaining what happened than I do, so listen to this.
We voted you off. You voted off Kaleidoscope.
Izzy! Time to go.
I'm not going anywhere. That's not my name.
Can I get a pen over here? It says E-Scope now, okay? Yo guys, want to make sure we keep this ballot in the files as an official record of Kaleidoscope's departure? I'll notarize it. Foresight. That's why they pay me the big bucks.
So, Izzy's still technically in the game.
Now that Chef has been outed, she's back to being in love with Owen again. Or so she says. She was ignoring him before. This will continue. All part of her plan. Season 2, Episode 8, we get a lot of backstory. Everything Izzy says in the series should be taken with a grain of salt. But, okay, this episode consists of all the contestants learning fake medical jargon and then being convinced that they have life-threatening illnesses. At the beginning of the episode, Izzy drops this little nugget of information.
I am so glad to be back. I was top of my pre-med class before the RCMP started chasing me, so this should be a snap!
Izzy saying she has a high IQ is one thing. I'm pretty sure IQs have been proven to be bullshit recently, so whatever. But her taking a pre-med class? Okay, Andrew, why should we buy this? She does compound on this information a little bit in the confession booth, her second ever confession, and the first time she was in it, her facade started to slip. That's still not really enough to believe her, though. Izzy is the one that notices the fake illnesses on Owen. He's patient zero, and she's also the one to point out...
Oh my gosh, first year med school syndrome! Too much studying and too little sleep can make you think you've got every disease in the book!
I can see!
Could she already have known this information without being in med school? Sure, but if we're to believe she's intelligent, it's not that much out of the realm of possibility. I think this is actually one of the few occasions where she tells the truth, but that's not even the most interesting part about this info dump. Ever since Izzy has come back to action, she seems to kind of be pushing the plot along. Like, if she is medically literate, why would she point out this fake illness and push the challenge along when she would know it's not real?
Okay, looks like it's quarantine time.
How very modern.
But there is no known vaccine for loving Lashana.
They all believe they're contracting the same illness, but it has different side effects, which all can be explained away with laxatives, itching powder, and first-year medical blindness. Except for Izzy. First of all, if she has been a student before, then this shouldn't affect her. Harold believing he legitimately went blind, that's in character and that makes sense. Izzy speaking in tongues only makes sense if you believe that she did this on purpose. Izzy's playing along while dragging everyone else behind her to get the challenge moving. It's revealed later in the episode that the challenge itself was to actually solve the hoax, and she started it. And not only that, the gaffers didn't solve it. Izzy did. Computer, play back Chris saying suss out.
Ready to suss it out.
Thank you. Izzy should have won the challenge, and yet her team loses, but she doesn't seem that mad about it. Aside from Izzy, there are 2 other contestants that come back to this game after being eliminated and or banned. Courtney, who used the law and a lot of lawyers, which is how we theorized Izzy got back on, and Owen, who is brought back as a mole and is there solely to cause drama.
So Chris offered me 50 big ones to come back and stir up the doo-doo. Oh, I don't want to cause any trouble because Lindsay and Beth and Duncan and Harold are my friends. Oh, and Courtney's okay.
It's weird that Owen would be the first choice, so who's to say that Izzy isn't currently doing that exact same thing? Because Owen does not seem like a good choice for this job, so maybe the first mole they picked didn't work out as well as they had hoped. It's also probably safe to say that Chef isn't in on the whole mole business because Chris wasn't in on his alliance, meaning that they don't converse when they're doing something underhanded. Little did Chris know that Chef originally had the same idea, and I'd wager to say that Chris does not watch the Aftermath show. I can't imagine he cares about it very much. He's not in it. This doesn't mean that Izzy isn't competing because she is still here to win, and by win I mean lose on purpose to vote off all the members of her team she deems as threats. Season 2 episode 9 is based all around scary movies, and what we know by now,
Izzy loves scary movies.
Izzy loves scary movies. Yet she loses the first part of the challenge while having Owen take the fall again and runs away in fear with the rest of her team from an obvious fake prop. Izzy does not get scared easily. This does not make sense, unless you consider the fact that maybe someone's throwing the challenge and Justin or Lindsay would have gotten voted off had DJ not intervened. Does she view Lindsay as a threat? Possibly. She definitely views Justin as one, but all the people on her team, aside from maybe Beth, she has experience with because Justin's a threat, Owen's right under her, and she worked alongside Lindsay in an alliance, but she seems to dislike Lindsay a lot. And there's no way she's gonna even bother with Beth because she's not a threat. There's no way Beth could win this game. She's gonna be pissed later. Just look at this elimination scene.
Lindsay and Justin.
What? I can't be going. Why would people be mad at me? Beth, you were a little bothy. Hello. It's called leadership.
The episode is making it seem like Lindsay's about to get voted off, but like accounting for all the members of the team. Would Beth vote for Lindsay? Would Izzy not vote for Justin? I know Owen wouldn't. Maybe Owen and Justin voted for Lindsay. Maybe Beth voted for Izzy. It's kind of unlikely at this point of the show that she would have voted off Justin, and way more unlikely that she would have voted off Lindsay. So this elimination very well could have been Justin. We can't see inside Beth's head, and Izzy doesn't care to look in there. Wait a minute. Does Izzy interact with Beth at all in this show?
Such a cutie.
Okay, I bought a lot of junk off late night infomercials, but I ain't buying that.
All right.
My boyfriend had a summer job cleaning up after earthquakes and landslides.
Nope, still not buying it.
Okay, Izzy, you're kind of...
I really wish my boyfriend was here. He's a registered lifeguard.
Uh-huh, yeah. It would be great if he were here, you're right. You know what would be better?
What?
If he existed in the first place!
Izzy snaps on everyone this episode. When she says Owen is the only one that legitimately understands her, we can assume she's lying, but when she sticks with the rest of the team, she still seems very mad. Izzy decides to take charge in this challenge, but not in like a crazy way. She just becomes the smart one.
I'll do it.
No, I want to do it.
Just give it to me. Lindsay, Lindsay, Lindsay.
Come on.
So, come on. What are the numbers? Read them out.
Ah! I'm surrounded by loons!
Where?
Oh, I love ducks. Ah!
In the actual canon the audience is supposed to believe, does this make sense? That's a lot of the questions I'm asking. Does it make sense without the theory? Does it make sense for Izzy to be calling people other than her crazy as like a joke? Or is Izzy legitimately smart, pretended to be crazy, and having all the pressure of everything up until this point, she finally snaps and drops her character and gets legitimately mad and tries to lead the team? Lindsay and Justin drop the escape codes they need to escape in the water, and the implication is that, oh no, the codes are gone, but you could still definitely read them. It clearly says 3, 1, 11, 3, 6, 2. She drops it on purpose and claims that nobody can read it from now on. It's a shame she didn't know what was about to happen. The latch breaks, so the contestants are left on their own to die. They've been threatened by major injury before. but this is legitimate death, and it only gets worse from here. Izzy probably thought she was protected, but in this episode, the people she thought she was working... Balloons just flew by my window. The people she believed she was working for almost get her killed. It explains a lot of what happens next episode. But before that, the only reason Owen is out of the challenge is because...
I've lived a lot of years.
Ouchie! That'll hurt come morning.
And that's tragic, and most definitely Chef's fault. But let's look at what happens right before that.
Please, after you!
Oh, come on. You're the one who sacrificed himself for us. I insist.
Ladies first!
Let me plant this seed in your head. If Izzy had not stalled him for no reason, would he have gotten hit? Something to think about. Even geniuses make mistakes, but this wasn't on accident. This was a choice. A choice she will live to regret. Season 2, episode 11 perfectly follows the plot from the previous episode, where Izzy finally snaps. Kind of. Izzy introduces her new personality, Explosivo, who is destructive and dangerous. The show has put Izzy under this umbrella of crazy up until this point. Could this be because the show came out in the mid-2000s and the showrunners don't have a very firm grasp on mental health? Well, yeah, but in canon, it's because Izzy's faking all her illnesses. I mean, she probably knows a decent amount about mental health considering she was in med school. You can't just assume she knows a lot about mental disorders just because she went to med school. Those two things don't interact a lot. It's not like we have any proof of her seeing through someone else's mental illness that nobody else noticed.
You're right! Help! Mal is keeping me prisoner in my own subconscious! Wait!
Question. Who's Mal?
I really did not think All Stars would make it into this video at all, but it helped. Explosivo isn't supposed to be Izzy. It's supposed to be one of Izzy's new personalities. Or at least that's what she wants us to think. She purposefully causes a huge explosion with Chris, the host, in the splash zone because he did almost get her killed. She loses the challenge for them and then runs right into a trap, even though we know by this point that she is a master of avoiding them. Business as usual, that could all be blamed on Explosivo. After this moment of really pissing them off, she probably doesn't have the security of Chris or Chef anymore. She is now competing on her own again. Unfortunately, things are getting a little serious with Owen. Part of her early plan was to associate with Owen by claiming she feels all the things that he feels, like his fear of flying, which actually gets called back to in this episode. But Izzy doesn't have the fear anymore. Suspicious. It's almost like she was lying.
Izzy, you're sort of female, right? Can you help? I mean, I had Beth and Lindsay wrapped around my finger, and now I'm getting 0 play. What's the deal?
Honestly, I never really got it. I don't think you're so cute.
It was all a ploy at first, but right now, Owen is the only one on the team that listens to her and kind of understands her. And he's the only one that she can stand. That doesn't mean she didn't purposefully injure him, though. She needs to keep up her on-screen appearance while also playing the game correctly. That's where Explosivo comes in.
I still really like you.
That's nice, Big O. But Explosivo loves just 2 things. The first is boom. The second is boom. Put them together, and what do you get?
Boom.
Owen's holding her back. In the TV show that she's keeping up her facade, Izzy loves Owen. Explosivo does not.
Explosivo does not answer most questions.
This is also a good cover for her to not have to come up with more lies. She could just not answer. But in the end, it is all for naught because in this episode, Izzy, Kaleidoscope, Explosivo gets eliminated. And she seems, for the first time ever, shocked. Izzy has been eliminated so many times before now, but she's never seemed this shocked. This was unaccounted for. This was not part of the plan. She didn't think this was gonna happen. And you know what? She's right. This doesn't make any sense. Listen to this line from Justin.
I'm not saying I voted for Izzy just because she said I'm not cute. Okay, it was just because of that. Thing is, Beth and Lindsay told me they were sending me home. So you see? I didn't lose my mojo. I just needed to shake things up with my new patented all-time lady-killing mega flip. I'm back, baby.
There are 5 people on this team. If Beth and Lindsay voted for Justin and Justin voted for Izzy, then Who? You could argue that Owen voted for Izzy, but there's no way. He seems so genuinely devastated. Could he be sad because he regrets his decision and did in fact vote her off? Maybe, but I smell foul play. Skipping ahead in action a little bit, after Owen is brought back as a mole and not a real contestant, he isn't ever actually voted off. In the final four, Beth and Duncan both vote off Courtney, and Owen is fired by Chris. If we are to believe that she was brought back in the same role to meddle with the game, we can also believe that by the time in this episode, when it's proven that she no longer is useful to the guys behind the camera, she gets the boot. Owen's elimination is very public because everyone on the show has found out by that point. Nobody finds out about Izzy, so it needs to look like a real elimination. Owen only comes back because he needs the job. Izzy comes back because she likes the job and because of a loophole. So because of her not technically being eliminated, she still has a right to be there. They can't fire her. Unless, of course, you set up a completely fabricated elimination ceremony and the person pinned on eliminating her is the one who's super injured and disoriented and you are currently medicating. Hey, check out this clip.
My squad in Battlefront has won 10 online multiplayer gaming titles.
Battlefront exists in the Total Drama universe. Cool. I just dropped a big bombshell, so I feel like this is equally as important. Season 2, Episode 12. The second Aftermath show. For most of this episode, Izzy is actually replaced with a cardboard cutout, and everyone else didn't notice the difference, and then she comes, she swoops in, she baits Chef into a piranha pit, and then drops this line.
Please welcome Miss Izzy, Esquire!
Oh, great. She's a lawyer, too. This Aftermath episode, at this point in the show, she is now fully checked out on Total Drama, and she is ready to pursue her blossoming acting career. She just wanted one quick bit of revenge against Chef after all the aliens and reincarnation and war stuff that may or may not be true. Moving on. This theory is going off the rails. Season 2, Episode 18, she makes a very minor appearance, but she's still keeping herself in the cultural zeitgeist. Needs to remain relevant. In the finale of this season, Izzy does very little, and yet is still the most important part of the finale. Basically, in the planned finale, Duncan and Beth both tie, so the actual finale comes back to contestants challenging them and just doing random challenges and hitting them with searing questions, and then it all comes down to a vote. This is, and I'm gonna say this, the worst finale in the series. Even All-Stars has a better ending. Izzy is one of the first people to implement the actual challenge aspect of the show, and she seems to have information about Chef being a secret DJ. I'm not even going to get into that. Because, like we said before, each Total Drama season needs to have an alternate ending where the other person wins. The vote comes down, and it's a perfect tie, except for one vote. There is one vote that changes who is the winner. And you can theorize which votes changed in each alternate universe, but the only line that's different is this.
Wow. He's not only real, he's really handsome.
Now I wish I didn't vote for her.
In the end, it doesn't really matter who won, but again, with my Owen theory, I do think it's canonically Beth. She says that she's going to use the money to take her mom and Lindsay on vacation, and then in the next season, we see that they go to Paris and just fuck everything up. However, they did both get arrested, and the only reason they were bailed out is because in the Celebrity Manhunt special, they say that Beth's parents had to sell their car to bail her out, which, if they had $1 million, they wouldn't have to do. But she did list off a bunch of things, and then taking the vacation was the last thing, so it's possible she blew her money. If any contestant were to win $1 million and blow it immediately, it would have been Beth. Also, Duncan would not be ecstatic to come back if he had already won. Like I said though, and I keep saying even though I'm digging my own hole, that's not the interesting part. What is interesting is, there's an even number of contestants. Sorry, let me rephrase this. If the votes are neck and neck, and then one vote changes it, there are two people they're voting for, how does one person win at the very end if there is an even number of contestants? Even if Jeff and Bridget don't get a vote because they're hosting, that's still an even number, and it would be weird to have one of them vote and not the other. It doesn't make any sense. Or it wouldn't if...
That's 3 votes for Beth, 1 vote for Explosivo.
Boom, boom!
Fine. The Season 2 Total Drama winner is...
The only reason there is a winner of Total Drama action is because of Izzy's intervention. Again, something to think about.
We have
have to work up a strategy and call my lawyers. After all this election fraud.
The Celebrity Manhunt special takes place in between Action and World Tour, and the first actual time skip of the series shows where all the contestants have been since Action has ended. I mentioned this before a little bit, but I didn't compound on it. Action only takes place a couple days after Island.
We met between TV seasons. Wasn't that only like 2 days? Mm-hmm. We met at the orthodontist.
So I think maybe a year has passed here. How long does it take to grow a full head of hair back? It's gonna get a little confusing from this point forward, so a quick recap up until this point. The theory so far is Izzy utilized underhanded tactics and just smarter tactics in general to win over and over and keep getting back on Total Drama. She had the exact same plan for the second season, but around the middle point she started to lose her patience with the people around her and snapped and got fired. She eventually got sick of the reality show aspect and realized she could actually make more money and fame from her acting career.
Post-elimination, she signed a stack of movie deals.
But Izzy then manages to lose it all in a very timely parody of Christian Bale's Freak Out on set.
Or I'll kick your butt! I want you off this set!
Sorry.
No! Don't be sorry! Think for a second! No, I will not take 5 I'm ready to go now! You call yourself a director of photography? Why were you walking right through the set? Why were you walking right through set? Okay, hey, just kidding, guys. I just really went ballistic for no reason.
And a little tidbit right there that's interesting to think about. Once she realizes what she's done, she defaults back to the crazy persona, maybe trying to save face. After her film career died, she started selling gossip of the other contestants that were most likely told to her in confidence to a gossip blog run by a girl named Sierra.
All along, Izzy, you've been feeding Sierra the dirt on your Total Drama castmates?
Of course not, you're crazy. Okay, yeah.
Sierra and Izzy's relationship, and Sierra in general, will be important later. I'm sure if you've seen the show, you know. She claims she needs the money to pay off the RCMP, implying that she hasn't paid them off yet, but she was a world-famous actor. They would have caught her. At the end of Action, everyone seems very done with the show after what they've been put through. But after they realize that they need the show, they come back for season 3. And Izzy is no different. It's kind of like Squid Game in that way, and also other ways, but better. I stand by that. Izzy goes back to doing some crazy, wacky, classic Izzy shenanigans, like claiming she always feels weightless and planning on building a car with just lumber and oil. What I'm more interested in, though, is that she manages to sneak back into the award show that the kids are trying to get into and then lets the door close behind her. What's the deal? She wants to be relevant, too. Well...
It was a trick! There never was any Total Drama dirtbags.
Is that true?
Well, mostly. I did come up with the name.
Chris threatened to replace the teens with a new cast on a new show, but this was all fake just to light a fire under their ass so they would want to come back for season 3, and it worked. He then says he's allowing Alejandro to compete anyway after tricking him for compensation. But Alejandro isn't the only new contestant. Sierra, the hyper-obsessed gossip blogger from before, is also joining the cast. But why? It is my belief that Izzy used her insider knowledge, which we know she has, to figure out a way back on the show. So she stops her fellow contestants along the way of doing the easy path and pushes them towards the more extreme one.
They have one dream, to claw their way back to fame no matter what it takes. Cheating, shameless self-promotion, sabotage. I love those kids!
You said they were washed up!
That was before they set off on an unforgettable comeback adventure!
Exactly like she did the challenges in Action. And I know this is just an Izzy theory, but I think Sierra was in on it. I think Izzy made a deal with Sierra that was mutually beneficial for both of them. Sierra isn't evil, but she's definitely morally questionable. I mean, like, as far as assault goes, when it's cartoon women, people don't care as much, but she's, like, not a good person. It's not crazy to think that she would use underhanded tactics to get on the show she's been obsessed with since it came out, to meet the boy she's been obsessed with. And it's not only to get on the show.
What in the world are you waiting for?
It was a rhetorical question.
Total Drama World Tour. Don't forget your baggage. Premiering Monday, June 21st at 9 on Cartoon Network.
In the first challenge, the Total Drama World Tour, Izzy drives her team all around in the opposite direction and just like messes up the whole challenge. And then when she gets to the end, she switches teams again like she did in the first challenge in Island. But she switches with Sierra. And if you've watched World Tour before, you'd be thinking, well, she just left Team Amazon, so that's definitely the wrong choice. But the plans change in the middle of the show. Let me pitch you an idea. I'm not even sure if I fully believe it yet, but I think it's interesting. Sierra is a hyper-obsessed fan that has watched Total Drama over and over and picks up little details about each contestant. So what if Sierra found Izzy out? What if Sierra, being the super creepy, hyper-obsessed fan she is, kept watching the show over and over and then came up with a theory that Izzy's actually smart and not crazy and she's been I'm Sierra. But I don't know how sure I am that Sierra is in on it. She runs in fear from Izzy being dressed up like a mummy, but not enough dressed up like a mummy that they can't tell that it's Izzy. I think they're just like afraid of Izzy. Heather for sure is. Total Drama World Tour is the season Izzy fails. She's been eliminated before, but this is the season she truly loses. It's not a coincidence that this is the final season she competes in. I know not all the contestants come back for the later seasons, but she seems like a pretty important and fan favorite character. Izzy's crazy act was charming at first in like 1 or 2 seasons in small doses, but now all the contestants who have been together for such a long period of time are fed up with her. Lashana warns DJ not to touch Izzy as she got the brunt of Izzy's shenanigans in the past, and the two she manipulated and turned against each other in the first season are friends again. And Noah is currently talking Owen out of the relationship. It's clear by this point that Noah does not like Izzy, and normally Owen would have sided with Izzy over Noah, but if you've watched World Tour, you know this is the season where they bond the most. And if you've watched the Redonkulous race, you know which one sticks. It's a shame they won't last very long, but this did put an idea in her head. She claims to know a lot about tombs because of a movie she watched. She even sings about tombs.
Got a lot of crazy tunes to bust.
She carries Ezekiel mummy out of the pyramid, which makes sense for crazy Izzy, but in this theory, I think she just enjoys tormenting Ezekiel.
Where's the plane, eh?
I know, right? Let's fly!
Watch out! Ooh!
I mean, he's probably the only contestant that doesn't have some kind of history or beef with Izzy. And an occurrence of terrible timing, she finally got over her Justin weakness, and now we have a hotter Justin. The only thing she had over him is that she was always smarter than Justin. But Alejandro...
Anyone with a degree in engineering or an IQ of 163 or higher could figure it out.
Okay, so we now have the canon IQ of 2 characters. I don't know what to do with this information. Episode 2 is where a man dies. We see a man die in this episode, and it will happen again. Also, I talked about this already, but Izzy talks to a camel and perfectly leads it away from the Nile. I know this because they were right in front of Alejandro's team, who sees the Nile out of their peripheral, which meaning that she definitely saw it and purposefully went in the other direction. Izzy had always been the crazy character, but she was never mean, aside from when Beth or Ezekiel were around, but they're losers.
Hear that? It's the sound of girls all over the world, running and rushing, just desperate to lock their doors.
She's laughing along with Heather and the girls about the misfortunes of this poor boy, and we know she helped Heather kiss Trent, so she probably doesn't care that much. Don't take this the wrong way that I think this is like bad writing. I love Cody very much, but I love watching him get bullied. It's fun. But in character, this is very cold of her. She continues to stall with non sequiturs and nonsense until enough time has surpassed that she decides to lead him back to the Nile. And then the big switch happens, and the only reason it happens is because Sierra is able to manipulate Chris, or she got lucky. Izzy picked a good scapegoat. Oh, but don't think I forgot how this challenge plays out. If all of Izzy's moves are strategic, then why did she join the worst team? Because similar to the Gophers and the Gaffers, she needs to remain close with Owen while also pushing Noah farther away and keeping an eye on Alejandro. And she needs to keep an eye on Alejandro because...
You ever seen one of these shows before? Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
I knew I would have to use this clip at some point. It's so important to the series. She could be easily manipulated by him, yeah, but that doesn't mean she doesn't know what he's up to. She did time her move perfectly, though. Sierra had mostly finished weaving the boat, and now the Amazons can't move the camel.
Izzy, tell Ruby to get in the boat!
Whoa, whoa. Izzy's on our team now, not yours. Not a word.
Ooh, fun!
You can keep saying like, oh, Izzy made the wrong decision, she was dumb for doing this, but some things are out of her control. The only reason the Amazons do win the challenge is because...
We're gonna win fair and square. But to make sure you believe that, talk to the camel.
Yeah, okay.
I know a big component of this theory is to fill up plot holes or character contrivances, but this does not make any sense. It's just straight up like a dumb choice. If you want to claim that Alejandro did this to remain under the radar, it wasn't even, like, Noah was the one to tell Izzy to shut up. Al would have gone completely under the radar. Whatever, Ezekiel gets thrown off a plane, but oh boy, he'll be back. The only important thing to note about episode 3 is that Izzy agrees with Alejandro's direction, which she rarely does to any other authority figure. And Star Wars exists.
I think I will miss you most of all.
Harold? That's a toy lightsaber.
Like, we knew Battlefront existed before, but even Smash Bros had to, like, call it a laser sword, and whenever they're parody, it's like, okay, we can't actually use it, but they just call it a lightsaber. I don't know. It's interesting.
The large item-shaped monster! We must run!
Think of the children.
He's so hot!
Episode 4 is the episode plans start getting made. Izzy really is the core of her team. It's all about proving her worth. Every time she does something athletic like jumping across icebergs, Tyler is there to do everything way worse, distracting attention away from her while also making Tyler look very, very bad. She's there to warm back up to Owen and keep him away from Noah's influence. This has a secondary effect of enabling Owen's loudest and annoying tendencies to annoy Alejandro, who she still swarms to with the other girls, but again, she isn't dumb. And the first season, she stood by while Heather did all these things and did not stop her. In this season, she gets a front row seat to see what Alejandro does to Bridget. She was there. She just legitimately cannot help herself.
Is that box radioactive?
What isn't radioactive these days?
I can't find the radio anywhere. I think someone stole it.
You would think this is a really good idea, like, yeah, it makes you look crazy, but it's just like an actual dumb thing to do. But we know about the lying chip thing earlier, that she's really good at imitating a clicking noise. It's probably just green goo. It's still bad for the planet, though.
Crossing the icy river in Canada's frozen tundra used to be easy, back when the river was frozen solid. But thanks to global warming and Owen, Earth is finally becoming a lot more interesting. By which I mean, deadly!
Aha! Yay!
In episode 5, Izzy switches back and forth between doing incredible athletic acts and then immediately undercutting it with crazy. She still wants to win, but if people view you as a threat, it puts a large target on your back. You're good at climbing rope, claim to be a rabid monkey. Do an amazing balancing act, purposefully run into a pole right after. When you need to melt into the background, let the dumb jock do the physical challenge. You don't have to watch him sink underwater and not even try and help to save him. That's a little too much. But I mean, she also doesn't help Owen up, and she says this at the beginning.
Look at Big O. His fear of flying is so adorable.
Knowing damn well that Noah was under there.
You look familiar.
Holy fuck. She was strategical before and didn't really care who she affected, but her breakdown in action may have made her legitimately malicious. Or she's just playing the game and wants to break up Noah and Owen. Both explanations work.
Welcome to the second half of the challenge. Bobbing for Big Apples NYC style.
I love this show. All that Izzy does in episode 6 is try and throw herself in a meat grinder, so it has made Noah's job to keep her from doing that. Jokes could be made about Noah and Grinder, very easy jokes, but I'm a professional.
Cody's got a tiny sausage.
At least my team has a sausage.
Needless to say, this is the least interesting plan she's done yet, and probably the worst one. Episode 6 is full of mistakes that aren't relevant to Izzy at all, but I've been analyzing this whole show and I need to talk about it. For some reason, every time a member of Chris's really hot appears on screen, it shows the Team Amazon logo, and I thought this was multiple mistakes, but upon looking at it, it's just the same mistake over and over. Cody's penis makes an appearance in this episode. I think it's cute that Tyler waves at the walkie when talking to Lindsay, even though he can't see her and she can't see him. In terms of Izzy, she actually treats Owen pretty shit this episode while using her ingenuity to create a proper zip line. This is an important episode though, because it's the episode Alejandro convinces Owen that he can't trust anyone other than him and that all his friends are fake. While this separates him from Noah for the time being, which is what she wanted, it also separates him from her and closer to Al, who is a threat. This doesn't mean that Owen fully believes it though, because episode 7 is the first time Izzy takes it a bit too far. The first time. The episode starts with Noah telling Owen that Izzy is a complete and total nut job, and Owen not responding to that. Then it's revealed that Izzy's in the cockpit with Chef. I almost said Shrek. And then she crashes the plane. Granted, she crashes it into the water, so there's no fatal injuries, but still. I mean, credit to her, she's definitely aggravating Owen's fear of flying, so he latches onto her more, but she's also putting a huge target on her back. Unless she's doing this for non-competition reasons. Maybe to frame the pilot. It's never really explained before why Chef knows how to fly a plane, but maybe it's related to the alien war? Is that what we landed on before? Forget about that. It's not important. It's making the theory seem way dumber. This season in general has actually lacked the Izzy Chef interactions we're used to.
Guess what? We're playing sculpture piece bingo, and Chef's winning. We can't have that, can we?
Look out, Chefy!
Alejandro isn't a super fan like Sierra, but he's watched the show before. I mean, he knows most of the people. He thinks he's manipulating her. Maybe Izzy realized that she may have made herself a little too useful the past couple episodes and now needs to seem unhinged and also blend into the background. But crashing a plane is a terrible way of doing it. I mean, she catches the dog mummy for DJ and then slam dunks it right in front of his face. Team Victory had already lost the challenge by this point. This was not calculated, this was just malicious. But sometimes malicious acts are done for the sake of the long-term win. DJ is a formidable player. The only reason he got booted so early last season is because he quit, and the only reason he got eliminated the season before is because of shenanigans. She's probably noticed that Team Amazon keeps winning, and while she also wants to win, keeping DJ being docile but also still the only member of his team is a good way from keeping your team of voting you off. They may not always win, but at least they don't always lose. That's the perfect middle ground. As far as blending into the background goes, she does manage to avoid a big part of this challenge.
Noah, you will have to move through the lasers. Owen's girth and my muscled chest will not fit.
We know by this point, and they should also know by this point, that Izzy is a gifted acrobat who could easily jump through those lasers, but Alejandro doesn't even acknowledge that fact and immediately targets Noah. It's almost like he's lying and wants to make Noah do it for personal reasons.
Quick, tie him down before Alejandro shows up and makes me do it just because I'm shorter.
But it's pretty absurd how much of a stink Izzy can make while still managing to fly under the radar. At the end of the day, she still manages to make Owen laugh and annoy Al while also keeping them separated from Noah. I'm sure she also managed to make Tyler look bad somehow. Noah was already very skeptical, but Owen is in a very vulnerable state right now where he doesn't know who to trust. Izzy keeps doing crazy things, which will make Noah be like, hey, you should dump her because she's crazy, making Owen distrust him because she trusted Izzy longer. And I know the whole bros before hoes bit, and Noah is technically right, but imagine you are this person, you just made a new friend. How many times could they say you should break up with your long-term girlfriend before you start to get fed up?
I did have to wait a while for you to show up. FYI, Izzy likes to sing Pop Goes the Weasel when she... Ugh.
This is very important information. It's going in the journal.
Oh, you're quite the catch, Big-O. Welcome to my cruise.
I separate all Izzy information into two categories of for competition and actual backstory. Izzy manages to catch a lobster and a giant fish on this boat, which doesn't make sense because fishing is a very patience-based activity, and if we're to believe Izzy, the character is real, that doesn't line up. I just think it's interesting that as well as acrobatics and acting, Izzy is, for whatever reason, also very good at fishing. She also drinks a large jug of vinegar. We know very little about her past. Could she have been on a charter boat for the Great Alien War? Episode 9. Izzy falls for the final time. Hope you guys like that epic Bible reference.
That's, God. Just quoting God.
Izzy managed to keep Owen on her crew for a while to throw both Alejandro and Noah off their games, but it only lasted for so long. At the beginning of this episode, Owen confides in Noah that he's going to break up with Izzy, and this is right after she kicks him in the kiwis and then scattered. It's a very small room, and she just ran away. She can definitely hear him.
I still like her, but she's so...
nutty as a 10-ton bag of pecans, smothered in peanut butter, encased in a cashew the size of China.
Tastes like shoe polish.
So Izzy goes into what I like to call nuclear meltdown mode. She picked up on what was happening last season. Owen was at his most subservient when he was hyped up on medication. Her plan is falling apart, and now that Team Victory is just DJ, she's more likely to get voted off than ever. But Izzy's plan is psychotic. And I don't mean in a crazy way, I mean just like in an evil way. Izzy messes with the plane again, and when Owen approaches her with the "we need to talk," she immediately jumps out of the plane. This leads to Owen falling after her, but she landed after him because she packed a parachute for herself and left Owen to fall. And she uses her athletic skills to land perfectly on his kiwis. And then the plane falls on both of them. I think what I'm trying to say here is that she tried to lobotomize Owen. Unfortunately for her, the plan didn't work and Owen is relatively unscathed. The on-set doctor says he's ready to compete very soon, but it could also not just be a good doctor. Izzy pretends to be asleep, trying to think of a backup plan, but then she's given a golden opportunity.
It's all my fault. I wanted to break up with her and the plane broke her up. It's like I made it happen with my mind.
Perfect.
Owen, I've devised a mathematical formula for infinite time travel.
She can guilt trip him. I had a rough outline for how I thought this theory was going to go based on the previous watch-throughs I've done of the series, which is a lot. I liked Izzy as a character, but I never focused this much attention towards her because she wasn't my favorite. So when I was recalling this, I watched it the first time as a kid. I wrote it as Izzy is smart now and says smart things, but all the stuff she says that's smart is actual nonsense.
Synthesis equals teleportation. Of course. This will render aeronautics obsolete.
That's not a thing. The real Izzy was already smart enough to make calculations like this, but the whole genius move is just to make Owen feel guilty. Oh, and also...
And when the plane hit Izzy's head, Doc says it fixed a blockage in her brain. But she's so smart now, it's spooky.
She must be smart enough to trick the doctor, because that is not a real diagnosis. Again, probably a bad doctor. We know she studied medicine, and I doubt the total drama on-hand doctor is a real doctor. She could easily use her expertise to convince him of such chicanery. The doctor wasn't the only one Izzy tricked, though.
The army?
Say goodbye, Izzy. We're airlifting you home for special treatment.
Izzy's leaving the competition? For good? Oh, Izzy! Why did I ever want to break up with you?
Logic. We are incompatible, ergo the relationship must end. Adieu.
What? Wait! Izzy!
She has done it again. Izzy has for the third time found a way to not technically get eliminated. This one just kind of fell in her lap. She really lucked out this time. And she gets Owen right back on her side, crawling back in the same move. Genius. This is some 4D chess. The episode started with him wanting to break up with her, and now halfway through he's singing a song about how much he misses her and regrets it. Outstanding move. Like in the previous season, because she got eliminated, the next place we need to check is the aftermath. This season they have a new host named Blanley. I'm sure she won't be important to this at all. Izzy comes out with a new personality and new name, Brainzilla. Alright. Brainzilla is technically more well-spoken than Izzy, but if you look into the words, still very dumb and crazy. Like, the people in canon have to also understand that she isn't making any sense. At least now she gets to talk the way she probably does in real life, keeping her actual cadence. She does talk more like her second audition tape now. She doesn't talk like a smart person who is antisocial because they're smart. She talks like an alien.
Greetings, carbon-based life form, commonly referred to as Bridget. How are you? Brainzilla's health falls within acceptable parameters, thank you.
No actual smart person would call someone that. It's the Jimmy Neutron sodium chloride bit all over again. Could this be because she was originally an Earth freedom fighter who got reincarnated with alien technology? Who's to say? Not me. All I'm here to say is she is still actually smart. Smart enough to get the trivia questions right, but Brainzilla is still very much a hoax. We should know by now by experience that any name change is obviously a ploy to get back into the competition. She's got a lot of paths back to the competition, really. That's probably why as soon as she gets an excuse, she immediately drops the new persona and becomes Izzy again. What a waste of time. Brainzilla was just there to make Owen feel bad and get a free out, and she's got both of those things. And then she tried to hit a bomb with a hammer. She must really hate her competitors now. Whatever broke her in action really broke her. And then a ton of episodes pass, and she hasn't returned yet. Weird. Like in action, she comes back relatively early, but in Island, she doesn't come back until like the merge, so maybe we need to wait a little longer. And the next Aftermath show is actually all about getting back on the show. The Peanut Gallery contestants all have a chance to get back onto the show. Izzy is visibly excited by this, which we don't see a lot, and jumps on Eva the first chance she get. They may seem like friends, but she has held her down at every opportunity. But she gets literal peanuts instead. Is there anything else of note in this episode? Okay.
Enjoy your facial!
I promise this is less gross in context. And then, that's the last we see of her in Total Drama World Tour. What? I mean, she's in the background of the finale with everyone else, but she doesn't do anything? She has an opportunity to get back in the game right in front of her on her silver platter, one that she has used before, and she doesn't. She doesn't feel the need to come back to the show this time. The show she spent the entire series trying to get on and stay on. Who knows? People change, I guess. Action happens right after Island, but World Tour is a decent time skip. Maybe she realized in that time that she'd be better suited in a different role. It's important to remember the words she said in her first audition tape, "I won't be boring." Ever since season 1, she has made every challenge harder, but more entertaining. She took over the hosting duties of the Aftermath show multiple times. Maybe, just maybe, she sees more money and fame in the hosting business. But because of that, she's got a new target in her radar.
Oh, you want to hear something really fun? They wanted me to host the show. You only got the job because I said no and...
I knew Blanley would be important. I mean, I did kind of say it as a throwaway joke, but I knew this was going to happen. In the season, the producers are actively looking for Chris's replacement, but Chris still fights tooth and nail to remain on the show. Total Drama Revenge of the Island features a couple legacy characters coming back to help with challenges. But most of them either seem like they don't want to be there or just go into business for themselves, except for one returning contestant, Izzy. Izzy takes her spider role very seriously, like she's the most active player in any challenge, aside from Heather, but that wasn't part of the challenge, proving that she is a useful utility to the Total Drama family. She's rising through the ranks, but she's still pretty low on the totem pole. Until you remember, Total Drama Revenge of the Island ends with Chris getting arrested.
You're busted, McLean!
For what?
Creating an environmental disaster, that's what! Residents of Wawanakwa, your island is now under government protection.
Where have I seen those helicopters before? Izzy became a double agent so she can get Chris arrested and take over hosting duties of the show. Is there anyone she can't outsmart? And these 4 seasons, the whole plot all together, this would be a nice ending to her story, leaving it ambiguous to what she does next. But then we got a new season of All Stars. It would have been a nice ending to her story had the producers not bailed Chris out of jail. Bummer. You'll get him next time. She just gets to reprise her role as the Spider in this season and takes a dive for Mallow to cement him as the new big bad, implying that Izzy was the villain in every season prior, which is what I want to believe. And that's pretty much it so far. You see, 2 new seasons of Total Drama were announced coming to HBO Max, coming soon. But that was a long while ago. I don't really know how the cast is going to work for the new seasons or how legacy characters are going to work, but maybe we'll see Izzy return and there will be new information that will add to this theory. Maybe the writers are aware of this theory and will lean into it more. Maybe they'll make Izzy the new host. I mean, it's pretty much all she wants now. And now that we're at the end, I just hope I convince you guys to see the series the way I do. I hope you believe me. Even if you don't believe this theory, as long as there's that little spark of doubt in the back of your head, I did my job. I love Total Drama and I love analyzing it. If I'm gonna insist on watching it every year, maybe I'll keep doing videos like this. Maybe I'll pick a different character. There's some other characters who actually have some interesting things if you look into it deeper. Let me know who you think should be next. Just don't pick like Ezekiel because it's pretty cut and dry. He's just a freak. But it's gonna be a while before we get there. The interesting thing about these videos is in my research, I get hyper-focused on that one thing, so the topics kind of bleed over to the next month. So a lot of these videos kind of piggyback off each other. I got into Total Drama because I was watching clips of it from like the past Thumb stuff, and the only reason I did the Star Wars thing after that is because I was watching the Star Wars night where Total Drama was also airing. I'm like, oh yeah, Cartoon Network, Star Wars, Thumbs, Total Drama, and it all kind of mixed in my head. So maybe next month's video will be related. Maybe it won't be related at all. I just at least know that I will write too many pages and refuse to cut it down and then won't be able to sleep until the video is done. That's a sad ending.